September 8, 2025, Hollywood, California. A tow yard employee walks toward an impounded Tesla. The car had been sitting there for months, untouched, unclaimed. Paperwork listed the registered owner as a rising musician, a 21-year-old singer, known to millions of fans as D4vd. The employee opens the front trunk. Inside are 2 black bags. What is found inside those bags will end a young girl's life story and begin a criminal case that would expose one of the most disturbing celebrity prosecutions Los Angeles has seen in years. This is the case of David Anthony Burke, the man behind the stage name D4vd, and the death of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The Tesla had been towed weeks earlier, seized for unrelated reasons, and left sitting in a Hollywood impound lot. Nobody came to claim it. When workers finally opened the frunk to process the vehicle, they found human remains, badly decomposed, contained in 2 separate bags stacked one beneath the other. Investigators would later detail the scene in court filings. Once the first bag was pulled from the trunk, it became clear the body inside had been dismembered, the arms and legs severed from the torso. A second, unmarked black bag sat underneath. Inside it were the missing body parts. The decomposition was severe. Investigators on scene noted that 11 air fresheners had been placed inside the vehicle, apparently in an attempt to mask the smell that had been building for months. Detectives ran the vehicle's registration. It came back to David Anthony Burke, legal name of the musician known worldwide as D4vd, an artist with millions of streams and a fast-growing following on TikTok. At the time the body was found, he had nearly 4 million followers on the platform. Identifying the victim took investigators longer. Eventually, forensic work confirmed what many had already feared. The remains belonged to Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a 14-year-old girl from Lake Elsinore, California, who had been missing for months. The Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division opened what detectives initially described only as a death investigation. Within weeks, it would be publicly reclassified. LAPD Detective Joshua Byers documented in court filings that this was, in fact, a murder investigation. D4vd had not been charged. He had not even been publicly named as a suspect. But behind the scenes, the case was accelerating. Before this case became about a criminal trial, it was about a life. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was, by her family's account, a warm and affectionate teenager. Her family described treasured routines they shared with her. Friday movie nights, ordinary moments that now carry unbearable weight. A makeshift memorial appeared outside her family's home in Lake Elsinore in the days after her death was confirmed. Filled with candles, photographs and messages from people who had never met her, but had followed her story online. According to prosecutors, Celeste and David Burke first met when she was just 11 years old. He was several years older, already building a public profile as a musician. Over time, prosecutors allege that relationship crossed a line no adult is permitted to cross with a child. Detective Corey Farrell, testifying for the prosecution, laid out what investigators say was a pattern of grooming, beginning years before Celeste's death. Farrell confirmed that Celeste became pregnant and had an abortion in January 2024. At that time she was 13 years old. Burke was 18. Text messages recovered from Burke's iPhone and iCloud accounts, read into the record by Detective Farrell, documented conversations between the two discussing that pregnancy. Some of the messages dated only 2 months after Celeste's 13th birthday. Prosecutors allege the abuse continued for roughly 2 years, hidden from Celeste's family and from the public eye, while Burke's music career began to take off. For months after the discovery of Celeste's remains, the case moved almost entirely out of public view. Police searched a rental home in the Hollywood Hills, where Burke had been staying, executing a warrant and seizing a laptop along with other items. Investigators say Burke initially cooperated with police, but as the investigation intensified, he canceled scheduled tour dates, and public appearances became rare. Behind the scenes, prosecutors convened what's known as an investigative grand jury, a legal tool used in California to gather evidence and compel testimony from witnesses who might otherwise refuse to cooperate. Unlike a standard grand jury, this type does not issue an indictment. Its purpose is strictly to build a case. Members of Burke's own family were subpoenaed to testify. His father, Dawood Burke, fought the summons in a Texas court, arguing the demand was too vague. That fight ultimately backfired for the family's privacy, because in order to rule on the Texas case, portions of the sealed California investigation had to become public record. That's how the world first learned Burke had been formally identified as a target of the investigation, and that he could face a single count of murder. At the time, D4vd had not been charged. He had not been arrested. But the language used by prosecutors in those filings left little ambiguity about the direction the case was heading. Reporters observed Burke's manager, Robert Morgenroth, entering the courthouse to testify before the grand jury over the course of several days. According to one journalist present, Morgenroth was overheard telling his attorney that lead prosecutor Beth Silverman had pressed him hard on why he never contacted police about Celeste. Morgenroth reportedly responded that it wasn't his job, that his responsibility was keeping the tour on schedule. That single exchange, whether or not it was ever meant for public ears, captured something central to how this case would come to be viewed. A young girl's disappearance treated, by those closest to the singer, as a scheduling problem to be managed rather than a crime to be reported. On April 20, 2026, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office made it official. District Attorney Nathan Hochman announced that David Anthony Burke was being charged with the murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Burke was also charged with continuous sexual abuse of a child under the age of 14, and with unlawful mutilation of human remains. Hochman's office alleged a motive, that Celeste had threatened to expose the abuse, and by doing so, threatened to derail Burke's music career at the exact moment it was gaining national attention. According to the criminal complaint, Burke killed her to keep her silent, then dismembered her body and placed it inside his own vehicle, where it remained for more than 4 months before it was discovered. The complaint went further, adding special circumstance allegations, legal enhancements reserved for the most serious homicide cases in California. Prosecutors alleged murder of a witness, murder for financial gain, and lying in wait. A special allegation was also added claiming Burke personally used a deadly weapon in the killing. These special circumstances matter. Under California law, they are what separates an ordinary murder charge from one that can carry a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. Burke was arraigned that same day in Los Angeles and pleaded not guilty to all charges. His defense attorney stated publicly that the evidence would ultimately show he did not cause Celeste's death. The only purpose is to determine whether prosecutors have enough evidence for a case to proceed. But over 5 days in downtown Los Angeles, starting July 20th, 2026, the preliminary hearing in this case unfolded like a trial in miniature, complete with forensic testimony, digital evidence, and moments that sent people out of the courtroom. Day 1 and 2 focused on the physical trail. Prosecutors walked the court through DNA evidence, cell phone location data pulled from Burke's devices, data extracted from the Tesla itself, and financial records tracing purchases investigators say were made under a false name through Amazon. Day 3 and 4 turned to the home where Burke had been staying. Forensic technicians testified that despite efforts to clean the space, hidden bloodstains were discovered across the garage floor, on the concrete itself, on rubber mats, on tarps, and on a blue inflatable pool. That inflatable pool became a pivotal piece of physical evidence. A trace analysis expert testified that tiny fragments of blue plastic recovered during Celeste's autopsy, found clinging to her leggings, were microscopically matched to torn sections of that same pool, fitting together, in the expert's words, like puzzle pieces. Then came the medical testimony. Deputy Medical Examiner Dr. Grant Ho took the stand to walk the court through the autopsy findings. Celeste weighed just 71 pounds at the time her body was examined in September 2025, a number reflecting months of decomposition, not her weight in life. Dr. Ho testified the level of decomposition indicated she had likely been dead for weeks, if not months, before she was discovered. He described a penetrating wound that passed through the skin, the diaphragm, and into the liver. An injury he testified was consistent with a sharp force injury, such as a stabbing. Decomposition had caused the liver tissue to shrink and soften, meaning the original wound may have measured differently at the time of death than what could be observed months later. Dr. Ho's official autopsy findings, filed that April, determined Celeste's death to be a homicide, caused by multiple penetrating wounds to her upper body. He testified that her arms and legs had been severed using some form of power tool, though the specific tool could not be conclusively identified due to the condition of the remains. When autopsy photographs were displayed for the courtroom, witnesses described a visible, audible reaction from those present. Several members of the public and press left the room. Burke, according to multiple reporters in the courtroom, did not react. He sat without visible emotion as the images were shown. If the forensic evidence built the physical case, the digital evidence built the motive. An LAPD detective testified that Burke's phone contained sexually explicit images depicting Burke and Celeste. The same phone and associated iCloud account, obtained through search warrants, contained the extended text message history detectives used to reconstruct the timeline of the relationship, including the messages referencing Celeste's pregnancy and abortion at age 13. One message attributed to Burke, read into the court record, referenced wanting a future pregnancy, language prosecutors used to argue the relationship was ongoing, not a single lapse in judgment, but a sustained pattern over roughly 2 years. Detective Farrell also testified about body cam footage from the day investigators first responded to speak with Burke before any arrest had been made. In that footage, Burke can reportedly be seen eating chips and appearing relaxed as investigators arrived to search the property. A moment prosecutors would later point to as inconsistent with someone unaware a serious crime had occurred in his own home. Burke told officers, according to testimony, that he believed Celeste was 18 years old and that he had not seen her in months at the time investigators first came to speak with him. Throughout the hearing, Burke's defense team, led by attorney Blair Burke, alongside co-counsel Marilyn Bednarski, worked to undercut the prosecution's narrative at nearly every turn. Observers in the courtroom described Burke as visibly supportive of her client throughout the graphic testimony, at times sitting beside him, resting a hand on his back, and handing him water and a notebook as autopsy images were shown. The defense's central argument was aimed squarely at intent. In California, a first-degree murder conviction requires proof of deliberate, premeditated intent to kill. Bednarski argued to the court that nothing in the text messages between Burke and Celeste demonstrated that kind of premeditation, that the communications, however troubling, showed no articulated plan to end her life. In one of the hearing's most pointed exchanges, the defense pressed Dr. Ho on whether he could rule out the possibility that Celeste's fatal wound was self-inflicted. Dr. Ho acknowledged that the autopsy alone could not determine the exact circumstances surrounding the stabbing. He could identify the nature and path of the wound, but not definitively say who inflicted it. The defense also introduced evidence they said showed Celeste's own family was aware of and had allowed her relationship with Burke, an argument aimed at complicating the prosecution's portrait of secretive predatory grooming. Whether jurors will ultimately find that argument persuasive is now a question for a trial, not a hearing. But the strategy signals how Burke's team intends to fight this case. Not by denying the relationship existed, but by challenging whether it proves what prosecutors say it proves, and by challenging wound by wound, whether the state can prove Burke caused Celeste's death at all. After 5 days of testimony from more than 10 witnesses, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Charlene Olmedo delivered her ruling on July 27, 2026. She found that prosecutors had met their burden. There was, in the court's judgment, sufficient evidence to move forward on all 3 charges: murder, continuous sexual abuse of a child, and unlawful mutilation of human remains, along with the special circumstance allegations of lying in wait, murder for financial gain, and murder of a witness. David Anthony Burke was ordered held without bail. Outside the courthouse, District Attorney Nathan Hochman spoke to reporters, stating his office believes the evidence at trial will prove Burke's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt on all 3 charges. A new arraignment was scheduled for August 31, 2026. Under California law, a trial date could be set as early as 60 days after that arraignment, meaning the state could see this case in front of a jury before the end of the year. As of this recording, David Anthony Burke remains in custody, held without bail, awaiting arraignment on the charges the court has now ruled sufficient to try. He has pleaded not guilty. His legal team maintains that the full evidentiary record, presented at trial rather than at a preliminary hearing, will tell a different story than the one prosecutors have built. For Celeste Rivas Hernandez's family, This case has never been about a celebrity scandal. It has been nearly a year without their daughter, a year spent watching an investigation unfold in sealed filings, out-of-state courtrooms, and headlines that too often led with a stage name instead of hers. Her name was Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She was 14 years old. The court will now decide what happened to her. This case remains an active criminal proceeding. Every individual named in this investigation is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law. This channel will continue following the case as it moves toward trial. If this investigation moved you, consider subscribing for continued coverage as new developments emerge. Subscribe to Behind the Case File for more details covered with accuracy and respect.